Well, the big story continues to be one that we broke yesterday on the India development debate. That is Air India's sealing the largest deal in aviation history with a letter of intent to purchase 470 passenger aircraft. They're going to be buying this from both Airbus and Boeing. Before this, the only largest deal was from American Airlines with 460 aircraft all in one go, which happened over 10 years ago. The figures, the purchase amounts are ranging between $80 billion to $100 billion, according to various estimates. That's because Airbus doesn't really give its pricing out. But today on the show, we're going to be discussing in greater detail what the implications of this are, why this is going to be a game changer, not just for Air India, but for global aviation, and where India stands on the aviation map as well. But before we get to all of that, let me first go across to my colleague Somit, who's joining us with more details on what this deal means for the aviation industry.
Well, the order is of 470 jets from Airbus and Boeing. From Boeing, it's around 220, and from Airbus, it's around 250. But what does this large order mean for consumers? Firstly, this large order will help the airline replace its older aircraft. Now, if you see the average age of Air India's fleet, it's anywhere between 9 to 10 years as compared to the Indigo's average fleet age of around 3.5 years, which is nearly 3 times. Air India's fleet age is nearly 3 times. So replacing this older aircraft will lead to better consumer services for them and a better experience for them, which is altogether positive for the airline first and also better for the consumers. Along with this, if you see, also more aircraft coming in could lead to higher regional connectivity because more routes will open up, so more regional connectivity will be available for the consumers going forward if more aircraft come in. However, will this lead to lower airfares? Well, necessarily this should not lead to lower airfares at least in the near term, because we still do not have any clarity on the delivery timeline of this new aircraft, how much of them will be replacement demand, and more importantly, how the slot and airport infrastructure will improve going forward. And all these factors are important while determining the ticket prices. So at this moment, we cannot definitely say that the ticket prices will go down, but in the near term, but in the long term, if there is a lot of aircraft that come in from the airline side, or if there is more supply coming in, then obviously there could be some pressure on the ticket prices. Lastly, the most important point here is in FY19, that is the pre-COVID time, India witnessed around 64 million international passengers, but Indian carriers had a market share of less than 40% among these international routes, and more than 60% was controlled by foreign airlines from Middle East and European nations. Now with newer and larger aircraft, this could change. In fact, Indian carriers can now grab a larger pie of the international routes from the foreign airlines, because this newer and larger planes will lead to more direct flights, which will also be beneficial for consumers, because this will lead to lower flying time for them, but also better experience, and in fact experience that could be matched with the international airlines. So far, Indian carriers were not able to provide such kind of services because the aircrafts were smaller and they were older. But going forward, this could change because of this large order that Air India has currently placed.
All right, so what is the real change that will come about? To speak more on this, I'm joined now by Ajay Attorney, founder of livefromalounge.com. Jitendra Bhargav, former ED at Air India, is back with us on the show today. I'm also speaking with Manvi Huda, practice lead at Kappa India. Welcome to all of you, and thank you so much for joining us. Manvi, let me begin with your take on the size of the deal, and very interesting details coming out today on how it took a year to lock this deal, how the negotiating team from Air India was camped at St. James Court and, finally celebrated over a meal of curries from different parts of India. But at the end of the day, why is this being considered a game changer? Put into context for us.
So first of all, thank you for having me here. And I would certainly like to congratulate the Air India and the Tata Group for this scale of order. And it certainly is going to, genuinely be a turning point for the Indian aviation. And if we look at an order of this scale, could simply have not been contemplated under public ownership, right? And it is clearly a testament to how the divestment of Air India has strategically and positively reset the entire aviation industry. And it is now going to position it to realize its potential. And of course, Tata Sons and in due course, Singapore Airlines have the long-term vision about the airline. They have the strategic purpose and commitment, and of course, the patient capital, which is much needed to, really enable the new Air India to emerge. So this, and as we already see, post COVID, there is so much excitement, so much attention, which in Indian aviation market is, getting, and traffic recovery has been amongst the strongest in the world. The airline market is now 100% privately owned. Which is, of course, followed by the divestment of Air India, and the development of airport infrastructure is ongoing. We, on regular basis, seeing the Ministry of Civil Aviation is, again in preparing to launch the next round of the airport privatization.
So we are no okay. So a lot of factors coming in. There
lot
are
of
80,
places,
there are
yeah.
80 airports that are going to come across India in the next 5 years. That's one big factor. Air India also needed to replace some of its very, very old fleets. So they've swooped in and got a good deal, perhaps. Ajay, what I find interesting is that there is a backlog right now in the world. And this question for Ajay Attorney, a lot of airlines want to buy planes, they're willing to buy planes, but the companies that make them can't make them quickly enough. So, I just want to focus on some of the deftness which was required in this negotiation to pull off such a large deal. And does this mean that all of these planes will be delivered in time, on schedule? Can they hope for that?
Hi, Tamanna. So, basically, I think there are two parts to this deal. The first part is the scale of the deal. Obviously, when you're placing the largest aircraft order in the world, one of the crafty things, the good things that Air India has done is they've basically hedged their bets. They've gone to both Boeing and Airbus for the deal because one of them can't simply fulfill the demand for the aircraft they have. So they've already split up the order into both the sides of the table and told both of them to deliver quickly enough. The second thing is talking about the delivery timelines. These orders will take up to 9-10 years to fill. There's no official timeline, but this is what sources tell me. This is a long-term, decade-long order. But yeah, at the end of the day, when you place an order that big, you get priority in choosing your slots. So I know that Boeing and Airbus are both sold out for the 737 MAX and the A320 family for a long, long time. But given the order is so big, now Airbus and Boeing will work with them to kind of give them preferential slots. One of the other things that is not discussed but is known in the aviation industry is the Tata Group also have signed up for a huge bunch of 737 MAX aircraft, which were already earmarked for another carrier, but now these will be, handed over to the Tata Group. In fact, delivery will start in late 2023 itself. So yeah, over the next 6-9 months, a lot of 737 MAX aircraft will already start coming to Air India and Air India Express. So yeah, that's the way this order has been structured. The deft has been in kind of getting preferential timelines, and also obviously when you're maneuvering around this kind of an order, you get the best price possible as well.
Okay, so hopefully they've got the best price. They've managed to do well in the timelines. Jitendra Bhargav, you know very well that just having the aircrafts is not going to be enough to run a great carrier and one of global levels and bring back Air India to where it was. Remember, that's the underlying sort of brief for the Tatas, to bring back Air India to its past glory. Is this just step one?
You have the quantity. We all know about the 470 aircraft order. They have the wherewithal, they have the finances to ensure that they can give passengers a traveling delight, I would say, when they travel on Air India. Let's not look at Air India's past for a moment. Under government ownership, there are several constraints to doing it, and let that be a bygone. When you look at Air India under Tatas, only even 6 months ago, we would have doubted the capacity of Tatas to order such a huge quantity. The fact that they've demonstrated and they've worked it out. You put the earlier question on the delivery schedule. Why must we have doubts? When you sign a deal with the aircraft, these schedules are worked out because payments are linked to the manufacture of aircraft, the various stages of manufacture. They would have all been sorted out. A350, 6 of them are likely to be delivered in the second half of 2023, clearly indicating that Tatas recognize the urgency with which they need to expand the network. Now, one thing that people have been talking about and why this needs to be reiterated is that we have for long known that India is a growing market. But the disadvantage had been that because we couldn't grow, our carriers couldn't grow, the Gulf carriers grew, Southeast Asian carriers grew at the expense of Indian carriers, on the basis of Indian market. Now, people often compare that, look, China has an identical population with India, but they have aircraft 5-6 times the number. That is because nobody snatches or nobody funnels the Chinese traffic onto their hubs and then flies them abroad. Whereas we have, our policymakers have allowed Gulf carriers to operate to multiple cities in India to take the traffic onto their hubs and then fly. So what this order will do is, it may take 3 years' time, up to 3 years' time, is that an Indian carrier will reap the benefit of India's growth market. Something that was essential, something that is imperative, something that all countries guard. It is not this way that you are saying, oh, India is going to be protective of their carriers.
Company now,
No,
Mr. Bhargav. I understand the sentiment. I appreciate the sentiment. It's a private company now. Yes, the nationality and the flag is Indian, but it's a private company.
Tamanna, it is not a question of private or government. It's a question of an Indian carrier.
Right.
Private carriers in the world, I'm talking about different countries. You take any European country, they protect their private airline. So something that was needed to be done, our policymakers did not do it. No country allows more than 3-4 point, barring United States, to operate within a country. We have given some carriers 10 different cities to operate from. So there have been policy changes, and I could have understood the rationale behind those policies because we were not growing. But now that Tatas have ordered such a large quantity of aircraft, they will expand network aggressively, and they will be able to meet the demand of a rising, growing Indian market.
So Ajay, this question for you, is the focus going to be on feeding the Indian market? And I'm also talking about the non-resident Indians which, use Gulf carriers in the Middle East for their long distance travel to the US, to Europe, etc. Is that the scope, or is this now on a bigger scale with this kind of a fleet size?
Hey, Tamanna, basically the order is largely narrow-body aircraft. Now, these narrow-body aircraft can operate around India. They can take people to the Middle East, on one hand. On the other side, they can fly as far as Singapore and, let's say, further Southeast Asia. So those parts of, the continent will be covered by the narrow-body aircraft. And there is a huge play on frequency of flights, which means, a lot of flights to Dubai rather than just a very few flights. Then coming to the other part, which is where the wide bodies step in. These will fly people all the way to London on one side, and Japan on the other side, and Australia on the third side. They can be used to go into Africa and so on. So the network can be created, yes. Whether the NRI will come or not purely comes from, at that point of time, what is the price of the ticket and what is the modern product that Air India will offer. People are so used to flying in Emirates or some of these other carriers. For those loyalists, it's going to be a hard, Air India will not find it very easy to crack them. But yeah, there are a ton of people flying, and as long as the price is right and the product is great, people will obviously want to fly, hopefully try out Air India and then keep coming back for more. So yeah, there's a big moonshot on that, and that is where I think Air India's game plan is.
Yes, Mr. Bhargav, then, the reiteration of that point, that the product also has to be internationally competitive, which is not going to be an easy task from where Air India is when it has been acquired by the Tatas.
Now, let's look at it. When Tatas regained control of Air India, one statement of Chairman Tata stands out. We'll give top-class, world-class airline, and we will live JRD Tata's dream. What was JRD Tata's dream? Or what was Air India during JRD Tata's time? Qualitatively superior to other airlines. So there is no reason why Tata will not endeavor or embark on a project that the interiors, the amenities offered to a passenger on board does not only match Emirates, but is a shade better. Now, there is no reason why they will not do it. They have full realization. They have been inducting people. And as I've often said, let's not look at Air India of the past. It's a new chapter beginning in Air India's history. Such a large order, they will ensure quantitatively, qualitatively, number one. Another point is serve the cities which have gone unserved by Air India in the past. Why should all flights to United States originate only from Mumbai and Delhi and not from Bangalore and other things? And we have seen it in the last 3 months. Air India starting flights from Bangalore to San Francisco. Why should a Bangalore passenger otherwise come to Mumbai or Delhi and then take a flight to San Francisco? So if we take this as a parameter of what the thinking process is, we can look forward when 70 long-haul aircraft are added. You will see not only more destinations being served in the United States, but more originating points in India as well. So one can look at it, and I'm at least not for a moment doubting the capacity, the capability of Air India delivering what a passenger is wanting.
I think the picture is going to get even bigger when we're talking about Indian carriers and their next move. Manvi, I'm going to come to you on this because CAPA has put out a report saying they're expecting 1,200 aircrafts to be brought into service by Indian carriers, and Indigo might also place orders for 500 aircrafts. Now you're talking about growth at a different delta. Where do you think all of this optimism is coming from in a sector which, at least for the past 5 years, if not more, has been written off as one where capital goes to die?
Indian aviation post-COVID, like I said, I began saying that, has shown really promising results, especially, with respect to how people have started picking up the air travel. And with that, and especially, new airlines coming in, and with the such a long due divestment of Air India, all of these factors has led to really, a long view growth story, which was, everyone was really looking forward to see in India, coming live, really coming to life very soon. So all of this growth potential is also because I think we still feel that the Indian aviation market is underpenetrated. And there's a lot of scope that, these airlines can really, from domestic perspective, as per, and also from the international perspective, they can capitalize on. So with that sort of a growth story and with that sort of a growth expectation, I think in near future, almost every carrier in India is expected, to order more aircraft in the next couple of years. Some will be certainly, of course, their fleet replacements, but then to meet the growth, the continuous growing demand that is coming from our Indian market, Indian consumers, the order book needs to be, much more robust. So that is where the whole of optimism about the aircrafts coming from.
The question also is about the pricing of these tickets. Ajay Attorney, at the end of the day, Indian flyers are back with a bang post-pandemic, but already the impact of high ticket prices will be seen. So are we seeing a sustainable sort of demand?
So, Tamanna, I firmly think that what Indian passengers are paying now is the right price. I think for far too long pre-COVID, people were paying, all these carriers were undercutting each other. And that is why the customer got used to low fares for a sustained period of time. I think the fares we are paying now are the right prices that we have to pay. Okay. And the customer should get used to it. I've said this 6 months back on your show, and I continue to say the same thing, that this is the price that you should expect to pay going forward. However, I can't rule out, a guy sitting in an Indigo office or an Air India office for that matter, coming up one day that, hey, we are not getting enough loads and let's kind of cut ticket prices to fill up the planes. So if they were sensible businessmen, which they seem to be, I think they would want to sell tickets at this price where they are able to eke out a profit out of a flight rather than just kind of sell tickets to be able to just fill aircraft. So, yeah. But as you have seen, even at these prices, I just flew today and, the plane was 95% full. So, this is a long
To
term.
sustain.
If
It
this
has
is,
to sustain. I mean, I feel we have to wait another quarter to see if it's sustaining. People have relatively started traveling more recently. So pent-up demand needs to sustain. Yes, Mr. Bhargav wants to come in. I just wanted to make a point that with all of these aircrafts, the pressure to fill them up is also going to grow.
Tamanna, let me add with figures to what Ajay had says. January 2020, on domestic sector, 4.14 lakh passengers were flying every day. And in January 2020, domestic carriers operated 3,080 flights per day. Now, when you look up now January 2023, we have attained the same figure, but by flying 150 flights less. That accounts for the higher load factors that our airlines are registering. And that's the reason why Indigo has declared a profit of 15 crores per day. And imagine the swing or the volatility that we have in the market. Indigo, India's most profitable airline, April, June suffered a loss of 11 crores per day. In October, December quarter, it's 15 crores profit per day. Now, it basically has everything to do, the cost factor. The ATF prices are much lower as compared to April, June quarter. Dollar, rupee, when you look at rupee has depreciated. Rupee has depreciated against dollar. But high factors are the combination that's giving profitability. And I fully agree with Ajay that this is the right fare because airlines in the past have been sacrificing profitability.
You don't see
in
another
their
round
pursuit to
of
gather
price
market
wars
share.
coming in? You don't see another round of price wars coming in, Mr. Bhargav?
No, there isn't any more price war. If you have noticed in the last 1 month, they've announced sale offering $14.99 prices if you want to buy or travel during this period. So they know that they need to fill up the aircraft, but there is, and the basic rationale is when people criticize the pricing, they overlook the fact that unlike railways and other transport services, here you have a revenue model which is based on buckets. Now, everybody doesn't pay 15,000 rupees for flying to Delhi. It's the passengers who are buying tickets at the last minute,
Right.
buying this ticket, seat, which is the last 10 seats available on a flight. So that's the basic reason. Let's not grudge the temporary phase when airlines are going to be declaring profit. This is a very temporary phase, but fares will come down when more and more capacity is added into the market.
Okay.
All airlines try to fill up the seats, offer lower fares, because that's the way the market functions.
All right. So more aircrafts also means eventually low fares, hopefully, or lower fares. Yes, Ajay, quick word you want to bring in before I wrap?
yeah, I just wanted to say, the 2 years of fare caps and fare, which the government of India imposed on all airlines has basically conditioned airlines to operate profitably, number one. And it has conditioned the passengers to be able to, buy tickets at a higher fare than they were used to. So I
Okay.
think on that I differ with Mr. Bhargav that that prices there's going to be a crash in prices again.
He didn't say
But
crash in
yeah,
prices, though. He
yeah,
said lowered over time as more inventory comes. But, we have to figure out what happens when the planes actually come. The first one is supposed to come at the end of this year. So a long time for these nearly 500 planes to come, for fresh orders to come in maybe from more airlines. The story is just starting for Indian aviation in a sense. I'll wrap it there, but thank you so much to all of you for joining us on The Big Story this evening.